Hello, and welcome to SquishiVision. Newsflash. So I just finished watching Doctor Who: The Power of the Doctor. Here's my immediate reaction. Um, Being the first episode of Doctor Who in a spell, a lot of stuff happened in there. That episode, I'm just gonna start out on from the top, was so good. That was such a great, especially as it was a centenary special. Technically, I think, right? That was what it's meant to be. Yeah, because that was. Yeah, so good. So many things. Oh, great. Should I start with the bad stuff first? Talk about all the great stuff I enjoyed. And then we talk about the ending, which happened. So bad stuff first. One of the plot devices is that a doctor gets tricked into being captured because a Dalek has appeared and is like, I wanna defect. I don't believe in I don't believe in the Dalek cause anymore. I want to I don't believe in Dalek cause anymore. I want to defect. I want to help you destroy the Daleks. Right? That was the Dalek's whole deal, right? And the Doctor's like, well, that's new. Except it's not new. It's happened twice before, at least. In Journey's End, Khan, Dalek Khan, I think it was like, I've saw the future of Daleks, and like, we're not gonna do well on this, so I've brought you along, and I've put all these things together so you help destroy the Daleks. And also Rusty was also like, the Daleks are a great thing. I'm gonna help destroy them. So this is, I mean, in fact, it would have made more sense really if that was Rusty. Although I guess it wouldn't have actually made much sense. But that was a bit confusing. The Master asks Yaz during the episode, "Are you sure you know how to use that?" referring to a pistol she's just been handed. Yaz immediately retorts she's had weapons training. Of course she knows how it works, and then points the gun at the Master with her finger on the trigger, which indicates she absolutely has no idea how pistols work. Also, why would a well, I don't actually know how the police works. The British police. I mean, I know how the British police works, but as in, I know there are armed officers. I assume they were like, they only did their own thing, but and you know, we already know that Yaz is a a beat cop, as to use American kind of phrase, rather than part of weapons. But I suppose it's very possible that, my God, can this thing stop going off on me? I suppose it is very possible that you can be both. I don't think you can, but I guess I don't know for sure. What else? Oh, the Master was like, the ultimate sanction of the Time Lords of old was to force you to regenerate, and that obviously happened between Troughton's Doctor and Pertwee's Doctor. I thought the ultimate sanction of the Time Lords was to raise you from time, because that's what happened to the Warlord. In fact, the exact same episode. It was also kind of what he was hinting he was going to do, but whatever. Let's start with the positives. I mean, this episode was like, from like such a like, I think the best this episode did was it brought together a lot of the fan service, but it actually made it land. I don't. Half of me, part of me, a portion of me genuinely thinks this might very well be, in some ways, a better centenary special. No, not better. It's different, but in a way, it kind of. So I'm trying to compare this to The Day of the Doctor, which was the 50th anniversary special, and I really enjoyed The Day of the Doctor. I thought it was a really great special. I thought it fell short in some ways. This is obviously the 100th special Doctor Who, 100th special of BBC, and obviously is going to refer to a lot of BBC history in the context of Doctor Who, which is basically the Doctor Who history. It's different, but it kind of captures the same thing. I wasn't expecting a special to capture so much of the same admiration of the history of Doctor Who, but it did. And I wasn't expecting that, so I was really joyous. Okay, so but it made it feel natural. I think it was natural because it wasn't trying to like refer to like too much of it, and it kind of only put in pieces but spread out enough. So obviously we had the advertised return of Ace and Tegan, which works. Like they just introduced this episode, they didn't make a big deal out of it, but they also gave it the kind of adequate amount of like reverence. And I just want to point out Sophie Aldred and blanking on her name, Janet Fielding. Aha, I knew it. Both immediately returned into the role as if they'd never left. I mean, Sophie Aldred barely sounds any different. I mean, I suppose it's only been 40 years, but still. But like, Janet Fielding sounds like has they got the same like mannerisms, and they threw in all the like the kind of Ace isms that we love from Ace, from her original companion run. So yeah, but then like this episode just kept on giving. The biggest surprising thing was the return of nearly all, well, the return of McCoy, the return of Davidson, the return of Baker, Colin Baker, and the return of McGann, as the kind of four classic Doctors actors who would be inclined to do that. Inconspicuously missing Tom Baker, but I guess we can't ask for miracles. And they also obviously got David Bradley to play the first incarnation again, or Hartnell's incarnation again, which he must have filmed like he filmed it in secret, obviously. Like no one was expecting this, so this is like one of the things he must film for his death. Martin's Doctor reappeared, but not like as not actually as like not the actual Doctor, but as a disguise. But the current Doctor uses, and the current Doctor's hologram uses. But okay, this is the point. Okay, just a short kind of thing. My reactions here are like immediate. Like I've not scripted anything apart from the notes I've just gone through. So I'm kind of just pulling out as what I can remember. But I'll just say right here, I cried at the parts where Davidson's Doctor reunited with Tegan and McCoy's Doctor reunited with Ace. I cried in both parts at the end. Like, it was fan servicey, but it was just like it was done right. When Tegan told Tegan's Doctor, if I remember correctly, Tegan left the Doctor in like not the most best of circumstances. I think because Tegan's one of the few companions who had, well, one of the few classic companions who had 2 exits. So she exited like once and then regretted it and like managed to track the Doctor down again. To be fair, I think one of the first companions to actually, go through all that. Hey, George Priestley. One of the first companions to actually, it's a thing now in modern Who about all the companions tracking down the Doctor, be like, hey, I can't let go of the Doctor, so I'm gonna try and get back to him. Rose did it. It happened a lot actually in Tennant's era. But whatever. But Tegan's Doctor really did it first. But then she eventually left because she was sick of all the death. And so they never really had that goodbye. She basically ran away at the end of the adventure in like tears, and that was like a really heartbreaking ending. It's one of the most heartbreaking classic companion departures. So obviously she's got a lot of like not animosity towards the Doctor, but trauma, I want to say. So the part where she she speaks to, I'm so glad, George, let me know in the comments what you thought of the episode. So yeah, she had obviously a lot of trauma, and then obviously the fact that 4 decades she hadn't seen the Doctor again, and she obviously hadn't quite forgiven, she built up a lot of resentment, but that was basically a facade. That was very much Tegan's whole blunt Australian kind of demeanor on show there. But she's like, when David's Doctor speaks by the hologram to her, she's like, she tells the Doctor that she misses them. The Doctor tells them back that tells her back that they. I'm not doing it justice here, but I'm assuming you've seen that part. I cried. I was just so beautifully done. And obviously, Brave House in it. there's a TARDIS posting bingo sheet, and a bunch of stuff is on it, but it honestly wasn't in the way I expected it to be. It wasn't like, I think if I think I would have been like, if Whitaker's Doctor said Braveheart, but the fact that Davidson's Doctor got to say it was just amazing. And it was, yeah, and then so I cried during that bit, and then I cried during the bit where, because McCoy's Doctor and Ace's relationship is one of the most interesting Doctor companion relationships in Doctor Who, because so blatantly was the Doctor using a, or not blatantly, but like their relationship was very. I mean, the Master even referenced it, the mechanisms, or something else. There was some word beginning with M. The Master described about McCoy's Doctor, and the way that he kind of, because it was like a chess master, and used Ace as a chess piece. And this episode implies that Ace left bad terms. So it was really like a beautiful moment where the Doctor, McCoy's Doctor, was like, you know, I feel really bad for like the way we left things, and that I didn't, teach you enough. And Ace was like, no, everything that I am today is because of you. And then basically the Doctor calling Ace like a surrogate daughter, like he, one of the best things a parent can ever do is see people fly, and that was just so beautiful. I cried, I got teary. But yeah, it was so great to get these like random Doctor cameos, and it was such a fantastic, like, it was such a great way to also like explain why they look different, because they're not actually the Doctor, but they're kind of manifestations of how of the fact of, well, the manifestations. That's like headcanon level of just fan insertion, but because it's something, I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I kind of have that same, wouldn't it be interesting to see with all Doctors, because obviously we don't have to like recast them or anything, we can just have them as they are because of something like how you're mentally perceiving them. That's like my own kind of headcanon. So it's always really nice when your own headcanon gets put into Doctor Who. And I'm sorry someone's gonna hate it and gonna think it's breaking canon, but I absolutely love that I don't mind they create this kind of world between worlds, pseudo mid regeneration thing. I mean, to be fair, it's pretty much canon already, but inside the Doctor lives the memories and the essence of all previous incarnations. So why isn't there like a manifestation of a space? Hi Jim, Bob, Senpai, and Flexi. I will address the point you're doing towards the end of this thing, because we're absolutely gonna talk about the ending of that episode. But yeah, gosh. So yeah, we got that. We got Ace saying wicked. We got Ace with a baseball bat. Baseball bat was a bit of a thing that I was going to be a bit wavy on, because in Remembrance of the Daleks, when she beats up a Dalek with a baseball bat, it's because the baseball bat's being kind of spruced up with a hand Rassilon power. To explain why it has so much power in this episode, but I'm sure we can pretend off screen she like put some technology in it to make it deliberately like more powerful. I'm sure it's not an actual baseball bat. And then obviously the Nitro 999 was a fantastic thing. And then yeah, like, this is, I think, generally actually one of the first is this like the first Doctor episode where you have like the Master, the Daleks, and the Cybermen in the same one? I think that's like a nice combination of for a centenary special to actually use. And yeah, I think going backward from the kind of, actually, let's finish off the Easter egg part first, or the cameo part first. Graham was back almost like completely randomly. Graham just like turned up and was like, yeah, I'm in this episode as well. I mean, he didn't annoy me. I wasn't annoyed he was there. It didn't detract anything from me, but that happened. I'll mention my feelings on this on the David Tennant reappearance, Jim Bob, very, very shortly. Stick around. Also, Dan just like disappeared from the episode like almost so quickly. It was almost as if, I think, the actor decided, why am I forgetting the actor's name? But it was almost as if the actor This is what happens when I have a long weekend. John Bishop, of course, yes. Uh, I think it was like John Bishop was like, actually, I don't want to kind of be in many more Doctor Who episodes. I don't ever want to kind of be in this special. I've got too much like other work commitments. And they were like, okay, well, do you want to at least appear for like the cult for like part of the opening? Like you basically are in three scenes, and he's like, yeah, I'll do that. That kind of. I feel like he was not in the episode because of actor availability, not because they didn't have anything else for the episode. Because it was a quite a abrupt ending. It was like, but I mean, to be fair, I genuinely thanks. If you watch my videos occasionally, I know my stuff, but occasionally I blank on actors. I can like remember the name of Dorothy, yep, of Sophie Aldred, but not John Bishop. I know who John Bishop is. I've seen his comedy. I mean, I guess he's not my favorite comedians. This is a tangent. I will occasionally forget names. Okay, I don't prepare stuff. I don't have a script. But thanks. What was I saying? Yeah, I think John Bishop was not available. I didn't want to. I had other commitments to do because I mean, to be fair, the reason he left made a lot of sense. But yeah, interesting. I'm going to speak about the ending of the episode very, very shortly. Stick around for that. I'm still talking about the meat of the episode because that's what's giving me the most joy. But the end of the episode does. What was I saying? Yeah, the fact that he nearly died, and I thought it was a weird thing to put in where he got shot in the head and when he was like staring at the helmet for a while, but then explained it because that's why he left. And I think that actually is a pretty fair reason to leave, having your closest kind of brush with death, being shot in the face. Although I'm not entirely sure how he survived being shot in the face, but I mean, it smashed through the helmet, no? But whatever, that's me nitpicking. It just sounds like I want John Bishop to die. I want Dan to Dan Bishop to die. And then at the end of the episode, we get basically what is a Doctor support group, which is a lovely idea. When I say it's been done before, if not in Doctor Who episodes, it's almost certainly been done in Expanded Universe. Or, I mean, I know during the COVID pandemic when they released all that Doctor Who lockdown stuff, which is fantastic actually, and I'm going to say pretty much pseudo-canon, if not actually canon. There's the implication that a lot of companions stay in touch anyway, so it's kind of already a thing that exists, but it's nice that kind of Graham had that thing where he brought everyone together. We got Ian back. I mean, we also got Mel back as well. Mel's all right, I guess. But we got. I know, obviously, we got Jo Jones back. But she's been Doctor Who before. Not that I'm dismissing Jo's return to Doctor Who. But Ian's back. I'm a bit sad we didn't do more of Ian. I realised it was towards the end of the episode, and you know, it was towards the end of the episode, and it wasn't like the point of the meat, and it was, I think, I'm sure they could only get him in for like a short bit, and I didn't expect Ian to come. Actually, can you imagine instead of Graham, Ian turns up in the volcano? I think if that happened, I would have just lost it, like in a good way. Like, okay, I shouldn't have thought that in my brain, because now I'm like, what ifing? And that's just going to ruin the episode for me, so let's just get it out of my brain. But I do wish he had more lines, especially because they already did the Doctor's a woman now with both Ace and Tegan earlier episode. It could have been nice, like it would have been great if like, especially for 100th special, if Ian's only contribution to the episode was like a short brief reference to the unearthly child, for example. But whatever, let's just appreciate what we got. I'm glad we got Ian back in this episode. I mean, still. Oh yeah, I probably should mention my videos are always spoiler videos. I don't. Yeah, so assume what I'm gonna say is spoilers, and assume what everyone in the comments is saying is spoilers. I'm still waiting for the day Susan returns to Doctor Who, but you know, I'll take Ian. I hope they bring back Ian more. Ian was underused, is my point here. Okay, but yeah, let's briefly talk about the plot of the episode. Then we'll talk about the ending, because I know people waiting to hear what I think about David Tennant's return, and then we'll talk about Jodie Whitaker's era as a whole. But the plot, I think, was actually good. People are very split on Chinbul's writing, and again, we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think I'd be just sad. I could see why people dislike previous Chinbul works. This, I think, was actually very. It was both a safe narrative choice for the most part, but also a well executed one. Like, he doesn't risk he goes too safe things are just too dull. I think this was safe and also well executed enough. It's definitely something which hasn't been done before, but actually makes a lot of sense because we know force regeneration, like nothing here is new, like nothing much is a new concept. We know force regeneration is a thing. We know Time Lords can be force regenerated into particular molds. It's not a huge, it's not a huge leap to assume that you could take your own template and essentially take over someone and clone yourself into another Time Lord. I suppose it's something which was like near sacrilege enough when the Time Lords were in power that no one ever attempted it, but it's something just crazy enough. Also, Sacha Dhawan, I think, is now my new favorite master. I think Sacha Dhawan. Okay, I see we're going from Jim Bob. The Rasputin bit was dumb, but it was also kind of fun. Like he was being Rasputin. It I was fine with it. I thought it was funny. I'm gonna let it slide. I'm not someone who's that into kind of pop music references, but the thing is, Sacha Dhawan just does such a great job as a master. Like I think he does unhinged subtly even better than John Sims' master did. I think Johnson's master was a great master for David Tennant's Doctor, but Sacha Dhawan is just like such a loose ball, but like he's very measured. There are actors who have like extremely fine-tuned control over their physicality, and every single one of those actors who are like that is always a joy to watch, and Sacha Dhawan is one of those actors. He just, the way he controls his body, like throughout his episode he changes his posture in like a variety of ways that convey different kind of personas, and it's fantastic. Like sometimes he's very hunched over, very kind of evil maniac Igor kind of attitude. The others he's kind of more threatening. There's this level of kind of there's this level of kind of just insanity, but like measured insanity. It was great. Like yeah, I agree with Jim Bob. His whole unit arrest scene was just terrifying in a sense that you knew he was definitely in control. In fact, I was expecting someone to like literally mention that he clearly wanted to be arrested, and this is exactly what his plan was. I guess that's the thing when you throw too much crazy, like this is another thing. I was genuinely worried that when I watched the trailer that this was going to be a special that put too much plot into it, too many content. I've seen so much time, like a lot of good concept episodes ruined. Moffat did this a lot during the Enemy's Tenor. A lot of good concept episodes that just throw in too much stuff and they ruin a concept, and I was afraid it was going to happen here because the trailer had so much in it. Flux at times had a great concept, but just flew too many like curveballs. This episode, I think, was Chimbal redeeming himself in this in a way. I say redeem. I'm not anti Chimbal. I'll talk about Chimbal in a second. I'm not really whatever. I'll just in a second. It's a long conversation. But like everything I thought was going to be a curveball, everything I thought was going to distract from the plot, actually worked. It played a purpose. The trick was to not give it too much weight, to give it enough weight that I needed. But also it works narratively because the Master's whole plan was just throw so many things at the Doctor to like discombobulate them and then close the trap on them in a way they weren't expecting. It makes sense for the Master to do that, and their kind of whole Sacha Dhawan's character acting is so great. I really hope this isn't the last time. I really hope this isn't Sacha Dhawan's last time as the Master. There's been a trend of such that like because there's been a kind of a trend in the sense that whenever they recast the Doctor, they recast the Master along with them in a sense, I think. Yeah, because the Doctor, I mean New Who, it's in 2005. Obviously Tennant had Sim, Matt Smith didn't have a Doctor Master. Pete Capaldi obviously had Michelle Gomez, and then Whitaker had Sacha Dhawan as their kind of counterparts. But like that's a New Who thing. Classic Who, Classic Who Pertwee only had Roger Delego, but there was tragic reasons behind that because obviously Delego passed away. Maybe. Although I think there's also another theory about who Neil Patrick Harris is that I like better, and we'll talk about that very. I know I say very soon. I'm doing this YouTube thing where I vaguely say very soon to keep you hooked, but also I do want to talk about the episode before I talk about the future. That does make sense. But I'm being transparent here about my intentions. I'm keeping you hooked for a reason, so you don't leave too early, because that's the way YouTube works. I'm sorry. What was I saying? Yeah, in Classic Who, I think once Anthony Ainsley was cast as the Master after the brief kind of wilderness years of where he was just a kind of a corpsicle, quoting Marvel for some reason. I don't know why I quoted Marvel just then. When he was a corpse, when he was walking corpse, and then once we cast Anthony Ainsley, that was it for the rest of the Classic Who. Like it was from all the way from Baker to McCoy. Kind of hope we still get Sacha Darwin, but I feel we're not going to. I've lost track of what I was talking about. Yes, okay. Narratively, everything I felt narratively we were going to get a mess. We were going to get something that's so confusing, but it actually all made sense, and it kind of simplified very quickly. And at times, I think that's why a lot of the Easter eggs and a lot of the fan stuff worked so well, because the plot was so basic that it could basically be just fan heavy, but in a way which didn't seem like it was just throwing stuff at us. Love Doctor Who also Love Doctor Who too, Jim Bob. I'm also autistic, so autism solidarity, I guess. But yeah, no, I think narrative it made a lot of sense. I mean, there's some things which didn't make sense. I mean, the Alex and Simon were a bit too friendly together, considering their history. I know it was explained, and I'm not saying it's a plot hole. I'm just saying it was too convenient. There were a lot of other conveniences in the episode, but that's fine. Doctor Who doesn't need to have Doctor Who can just be Doctor Who. It doesn't, and it can still be great Doctor Who, and it can still be like really good episode of Doctor Who without having to be like massively clever or like a deep work of art. You know what I mean? So, and I think I think it let itself breathe, which made it enjoyable. So yeah, it was great. The way that the Doctor got killed off, was very convenient. Was very kind of Deus. It was it's the opposite of Deus Ex Machina. The Master suddenly appears, presses a button, and a beam attacks the Doctor. That's fine. Like that, the Doctors had like more trivial deaths in the past. I mean, once they literally die in the first 5 minutes of an episode. So I don't think that's like. I don't think we should really like attack the episode for that. That's fine. Like that can happen. That's within like expected Doctor Who things to happen. Like I think the worst part of this episode are within the tolerance of what we've expected Doctor Who in the past, and that is part of the charm of it being a high budget sci-fi show. It's allowed to be like this kind of casual about really massive consequences. Okay, let's get to what we've talked about half an hour. Let's get to talk about the future. So, also, I was going to say I was right about the image that's in my background. That not actually being the regeneration. I'm sure I'm not the only person to make that prediction. But whenever they show the regeneration in the trailers, it's never the real regeneration. I loved the mockery of the Doctor's outfits when he was wearing Whitaker's overcoat, McCoy's jumper. I love that mockery. Feel free to ask if I missed anything about the episode. Put it in the comments, and I'll give my opinion. I'm obviously just saying things as they come to my mind. I absolutely love that kind of cosplay. It was the Master cosplaying as the Doctor, and you absolutely know that a whole bunch of us are gonna want to cosplay that outfit now. 100%. Okay, so Yaz leaves. Yaz refuses to say goodbye, which is a nice kind of character moment to the Daz when Daz left. When Dan left, and Yaz was like, the Doctor doesn't like saying goodbyes, but I'm like fine with it. Or she was like, I'm happy to see. She was making a joke about saying goodbyes to indicate she didn't mind. And then obviously at the end, she's like, I don't want to say bye to the Doctor because it's going to be too painful. And I think it was to spare the Doctor the pain of saying goodbye as well. So that's actually a nice ending. I'm not gonna lie, I'll talk about this in a second. I didn't like Yaz as a companion, but I also don't often have strong opinions on companions one way or the other. I'm not fans of them. I'm neutral to them, or I really love them, but I don't like. I don't. I think the exit scene was fine. I think the exit scene. I don't know. I think I was just grateful the exit scene was over. I don't like Yaz, so I didn't want it to be a drawn out Yaz exit. I don't. I don't think Yaz. I have a lot of issues with Yaz. I have a lot of issues with how Yaz acts and how it's often portrayed as her being right, but often she's just being entitled. I don't. Yeah, I frankly, it just comes down to personal choice. I don't like Yaz as a character. I don't like Yaz as a companion. And I was kind of happy to see Yaz go. So I was just kind of hoping it didn't draw it out, and it didn't draw it out, and I was happy that it didn't draw it out. So I think I enjoyed it because of purely selfish reasons. Yaz leaves. The Doctor chooses, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time in New Who, the Doctor doesn't regenerate inside the TARDIS. So that's significant. It happened a lot in Classic Who. Says they want to watch Sunrise. It's actually really beautifully done. Leaves, has a bunch of kind of things to say. She doesn't get the Jodie Whitaker didn't get the long speeches, the long impactful speeches that Capaldi got. Matt Smith's speech wasn't that great, but obviously David Tennant had a kind of David Tennant actually had a kind of whole appendix to his episode, and Eccleston had a kind of a very strong scene. I wouldn't say Whitaker's final scene was perhaps the best, where it wasn't the most impactful of endings, but that's fine. Doesn't have to be. Again, this is an intolerance of what we expect. Loads of like Doctors have regenerated and very kind of okay-ish scenes. It was still very Whitaker. I didn't think it did a disservice at all. And the Doctor regenerates. The clothes disintegrate, and immediately, all of us who have seen the leaked footage, leaked pictures, I think probably everyone's seen it at this point, recognizes the David Tennant costume, and David Tennant appears, and immediately references the last regeneration scene. Feels, the Doctor feels their teeth, recognizes it, which to be fair, it's quite a funny line. I reckon tells us that they recognize their teeth. They look at their hands, which I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but obviously in David Tennant's first episode, their hand was a big part of Christmas Invasion, because it gets cut off, and then obviously that comes back later on. But their hand played a role, is what I'm saying. The hand had a hand in it. That didn't make any sense. I was trying to go for a pun. It didn't work. Never mind. They feel their face. I don't know if you can really. People tend to have good memories of their own face, that they can recognize it from touch. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever gonna touch my face and it not be on my head. So whatever. And they're like, yeah. And then they do the David Tennant what line, which was kind of cringe. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not gonna die on that hill. It was just whatever. Okay. The Doctor is now played by David Tennant, and the credits were like introducing David Tennant as the Doctor. So how do I feel about this? Because obviously we knew David Tennant was returning Doctor 2 for a long time. People had, and I think the two major theories were either the Doctor was going to regenerate or de-regenerate or whatever, was going to something or another, but they were going to become David Tennant before they became. I'm going to bring their name up again because I don't want to mispronounce it. I did spend some time like a while ago trying to learn how to pronounce the name. So Ncuti Gatwa Ncuti Gatwa has been marketed like as the 14th Doctor, and the numbering system in Doctor Who doesn't exist anymore narratively, but it exists promotionally. But that's just like the 14th lead of the show, so it doesn't mean anything else apart from that. But Ncuti Gatwa was meant to be the next Doctor, but then David Tennant was like, it was leaked that David Tennant was going to return in the 60th. So the theories were either that David Tennant was going to be a new a Doctor between like either a de-regeneration or a or like a whatever thing between Whitaker's Doctor and Gatwa's Doctor. The other theory was that David Tennant was gonna play like the Master, or they were gonna play the Doctor from the alternate universe, or they were gonna play there's a theory going along that Neil Patrick Harris isn't playing the Master. Neil Patrick Harris is playing the Toy Master from Hartnell's era of Doctor Who. The Celestial Toy Master, I think, was the name of the character, and then this was like a giant hallucination that brings that David Tennant's Doctor reappeared in. All those kind of theories, but canonically, the Doctor has regenerated into a previous form, which we know they can do because I know at some point they're going to regenerate into a elderly-looking Dana Tom Baker. We don't know the full context of why it's happened. We don't know if it has anything to do with the kind of mess regeneration that's just happened in this episode. Well, I guess that would make sense, and that is, I guess, an explanation of why it would happen, because it's clear a lot of like unnatural things happening. So, how do I feel about this? Like, I've just described to you what's happened and what the different theories were, but how do I feel? Narratively, I'm open to a lot of things in Doctor Who, I mean, I don't think you should gatekeep Doctor Who narratively. Okay, a lot of people watching this video right now are new to my channel, so I'll just provide some context. I liked the Timeless Children reveal. I actually thought it was respectful to canon, give a nice twist on things we knew before, we knew at Doctor Who, played around with the Doctor's origin without full out giving us too much about it, which has happened in the past Doctor Who. I thought Timeless Children was actually both a great idea and actually reasonably well executed, and I think a lot of people misunderstood the execution. So I'm for context, as someone who is pro the Timeless Children reveal, I am quite open to a lot of things in Doctor Who. I don't think you should gatekeep Doctor Who. I think Doctor Who has lived for as long as it has because it has had the ability to experiment so broadly with concepts and narrative things. On the other hand, and in the same vein, Doctor Who has survived for so long because Doctor Who always moves forward. It's a show, thematically, it's a show about moving on. The Doctor, as a character, as a flaw, is always about, always moves on. People have called up a Doctor for like never staying around and dealing with the consequences. That's been quite recurring. It was a big part of episodes like Boomtown. I think Boomtown's basically the thesis episode that revolves around the Doctor not dealing with Jim Bob. So I'll just backtrack slightly. I actually started this episode. I started my review, this live stream. You can go back and watch this bit, listing the 3 things I had issues with this episode. And one of the big things I mentioned was actually twice before Daleks have asked the Doctor to help them destroy the Daleks. It actually Rusty was one of them, but also Dalek. I might be getting the wrong member of the Cult of Skara here, but it was Dalek Khan in Journey's End. They saw the future of the Daleks in like a vision, and they interfered with Devros's plan so that the Doctor would win. That was a plot twist in Journey's End. So this has actually happened twice before. This is definitely not the first rogue Dalek. I'm a bit annoyed if we got that, because it wasn't really in line that was needed. Yeah, I was right, Dalek Khan. But back to kind of what I was saying. Doctor Who is always about moving forward. So even though the idea of a Doctor regenerating into a previous incarnation is a new and interesting one, the fact that I can't ignore the meta reasons behind this. So it's no one's ignorant to the fact David Tennant is a fairly popular Doctor. David Tennant is a fairly popular actor. He's probably the actor in New who has had the most has the most success, like commercially, like Doctor Who made his name, and he's gone, and basically he's one of like the A-list British actors now. I mean, both Matt Smith have, well, Matt Smith's kind of making his current name. Like, Matt Smith kind of didn't have that rise to stardom immediately after Doctor Who, but now is kind of trying to get his name in things like Morbius and House of Dragon. Capaldi actually kind of already had his limelight thing, and Doctor Who was kind of his like culmination of that. David Tennant, you know, Doctor Who, then kind of did like other projects, but like his name sold stuff. So people always go back to David Tennant, and I hated that, not because I hate David Tennant. David Tennant's a fantastic Doctor, honestly, like really, really good actor. I love watching David Tennant in a lot of things. I just really hate how people are like laser focused on David Tennant, to the fact that they're ignorant to the rest of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who's a show that's rich history and rich with momentum, and you can never stay in one moment. Like, the show is literally about not staying in one place. That's literally the thesis of the show, or one of the theses of the show. So the show is all about moving forward, and I think, I dare say it is, and again, I have to wait to see how this turns out, but I dare say it's arguably really disrespectful to the legacy of Doctor Who, and you know, disrespectful to the thesis of that moving on, disrespectful to the whole momentum of the show, disrespectful to Ncuti Gatwa, but disrespectful to the confidence and the faith you have in the show, to basically be like, oh, we're having a crisis of, because you know, I understand Doctor Who at the moment is not at its most popular. I understand that a lot of Chimble's writing is turning people away, a lot of some people being very vocal. But to me, it's like, so people are like, oh, well, we want to give Doctor Who this kind of burst of, it's kind of validating and encouraging, and what's the word, enabling the viewpoint that Doctor Who was only ever good when David Tennant was in the role, and that's simply not true. I think by bringing David Tennant back as a method, if they come up with a narrative, if the episode narratively justifies David Tennant coming back in a way which, you know, it has to be David Tennant or it has to be previous Doctor, if a plot goes, if the next episode's plot reasonably justifies bringing back a previous Doctor as a future incarnation of a Doctor, I'll take back my words here. If they can do that, that's fine. If it's plain and simple, nothing more than just a strategy to get people to back to Doctor Who, I think I'd be disappointed, because I think that validates and enables and agrees with the idea that, oh, Doctor Who reached its peak with David Tennant and it went downhill since, and that's really disrespectful to everyone who's led as a Doctor since. It's disrespectful to the plot developments. It's Doctor Who going back, which Doctor Who should never do. And again, this isn't because I don't like David Tennant. David Tennant is a great Doctor. I just think we need to have a show that constantly moves forward. Do you get what I'm kind of trying to argue here? I don't. Again, if they do something interesting with the concept, I will take back my words. But I think it's, a lot of people are like, you shouldn't be doing this just to get people into Doctor Who, because it's. That's why we have multi-Doctor specials, to give fans who are very fond of one particular Doctor a thing. I just don't like the idea that this is just literally because people have lost faith. Like, I don't like the idea that this is because people higher up in BBC have lost faith in Doctor Who, and like, oh, let's just bring David Tennant back to kind of get the ratings back up again. Because I think that's just, there's this thing about in fandoms at the moment. It affected Star Wars, and it has a danger of affecting other. I am very much against the idea that, this is a really broad concept. I'm trying to not make the video about this, but fans own a part of a fandom. Obviously, fans, you know, Doctor Who belongs to the fans. Doctor Who survives because of the fans. Doctor Who is here for the fans. But equally, Doctor Who is creators should not feel beholden to fans. Here's the argument I'm making, and this isn't the argument, doesn't originate from me. I heard another creator make this, and I agree, and I'm going to perpetuate the argument. I think it's people like Neil Gaiman or who made this argument. Like, as a creator, you should make what you think is good art, regardless of what the fans want. This is for like shows with popular fan followings. You shouldn't make the show for fans' expectation. You should make a good show, and you can throw in a couple of like fan things here and there, but you shouldn't make. And this is like Star Wars is a good example of this. Star Wars is a show which gets a lot. It's a show, I guess. Star Wars is a franchise that people get very entitled over, and a lot of people get very angry when Star Wars doesn't meet their expectations, even if it doesn't. Okay, another thing, I am a massive The Last Jedi fan. I think The Last Jedi is one of the best pieces of Star Wars I have seen because it didn't attempt to meet fan expectation. It didn't try to redo what's done before. It did something completely new. It's all happened to be part of a Star Wars narrative. But then people didn't like that because it went against their expectations. And people expected something. And it's like, and I feel like if you start creating art and you think too much about what people want and not what you want to create or not about telling a good story, fans shouldn't be able to. People who are passionate or people who are entitled, I don't want to be putting too many labels on people here, shouldn't be the authors of a show. You know, you can get me and you can not like it, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean you get a right to be like, you should do it this way next time, you know? And I feel like this is basically playing into hands. It's like, look, people have been saying, oh, bring back David Tennant, bring back David Tennant, bring back David Tennant. And this is kind of validating that you can hold a show hostage. I really hate the idea. I would rather have show content I don't like that was at least original and comes from the author rather than, you know, comes from the author rather than. This is a big conversation. Again, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but so here's the interesting thing about that trailer. Ncuti Gatwa is in it. There was a part at the end of the trailer I wasn't expecting, and this throws a whole twist in. Actually, maybe they're doing something very interesting in this episode. There was a part of a trailer where, well, actually, the trailer ends on what I think is, I'm pretty sure is Ncuti Gatwa basically like, what the hell is going on? That gives me some hope that maybe there is like a twist here, and that again might validate everything they've done. I might be like, okay, this is actually fine. But at the moment, I can't be comfortable. I can't be assured because they're bringing back Tennant, they're bringing back Catherine Tate as Donna, which as I think Jim Bob in the comments rightly put, had a nice ending, and if we undo that ending, it's gonna be quite disrespectful. We have Bernard Cribbins back as Wilf, and obviously everyone loves Bernard Cribbins, but Doctor Who is a show about moving on, and that doesn't mean you can't reference the past, but you can't live in the past. That's why episodes like this episode work when you earn your callbacks, but you don't overdo your callbacks. But when you make, and the thing about David Tennant is that it's just one massive callback. My heart rate's getting up. It might be the caffeine I'm drinking, but what do some of the comments say? Hi, Sai. Yeah, fair enough. I have a feeling there's going to be a couple of fans of the show whose opinion matches yours. The episode was more nostalgia, let's say nostalgia bait, when it was a good narrative. I've been actually talking about how I felt it was actually both a good narrative that gave itself enough space to breathe, so nostalgia was able to like bleed in naturally. But personal taste. I think it's very valid to kind of watch the episode and be like, too much nostalgia. I do wonder how well this episode sits with fans who aren't familiar or comfortable with classic Who lore. But it actually makes me more appreciative that they lent so heavily on classic Who lore. Like the whole things with Davidson's Doctor and Tegan and McCoy's Doctor and Ace would mean very little if you hadn't watched enough of their stories to understand the relationship. So I appreciate that they gave that moment to us. Okay, yeah, so we still have so we're living in the fact that now David Tennant has returned to Doctor Who, but he isn't playing the same incarnation. He's playing a new incarnation of something, and I'm torn. I am torn. Part of me wants to be like, a big part of me is like, I wish it didn't do this because it's just seems so much like a payoff to the demands of fans holding the show hostage, and it goes against the thesis of Doctor Who from at least a meta production value always moving forward. But another part of me is so curious. Another part of me is seeing what they do with this. Another part of me is like, Doctor Who should be an experiment, and infinite monkeys, infinite typewriters. Some point at some time in the future, someone was always going to make Doctor Who and bring back an old Doctor to replay the role. There's always, infinite monkeys, infinite typewriter, right? At some point it was going to happen. Why not now? Yeah. See how that goes. And obviously, I think it's we won't find out really for another 13, in fact 13 months exactly. So we will get the answers to these questions 13 months exactly. Hey, all of you new people who have just tuned into my stream, and watching this and commenting, and even those of you who are kind of to see who've subscribed, put up in your calendar for 23rd of November 2023. I will be here. Well, I mean, I might be here. I might also be dead. The world might have been gone. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be so confident that it's going to happen. Wow. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean this to be so macabre and morbid so fast. Hello, my name is Harris. I have a tendency to go very dark very quickly. Sorry. Assuming that I'm alive, the world hasn't gone through a post-apocalyptic state, and YouTube hasn't become a increasingly hostile place to independent creators, I will be here on 23rd November 2023. Put in your diaries. I'd love to hear back from you in 13 months' time. Yeah, sorry. My mind works a very particular way, and when I'm just ranting, I take left turns rapidly. Sorry. But yeah, so Tennant's Doctor, what's up with that? Neil Patrick Harris, we know very little about. Half the world, I'm maybe too optimistic about Doctor Who's current viewership. Half of Doctor Who's fandom thinks that Patrick Harris is playing the Master. Half of Doctor Who's fandom thinks that they're playing a Celestial Toy Master. I'm actually really hoping for the Celestial Toy Master, but that might be wishful thinking. I want to say Neil Patrick Harris playing the Master is too much of a given. And then we'll go for a twist. It's also interesting because like this is we're moving back into. I had the same concerns about Russell T Davies returning to Doctor Who. Russell T Davies returning to Doctor Who gave me the same kind of vibes about no, Doctor Who should be about moving forward. I guess I should comment my opinion on. People have very strong opinions on showrunners of Doctor Who, and I don't prescribe to that. I think every showrunner of Doctor Who has like their pros and their cons, and I think people have very short memories, and I know it's very rude of me to say, but I think if you look at Doctor Who's 50-plus-year-old history, it's had highs and it's had lows. Stephen Moffat was not the first showrunner to run Doctor Who and do unpopular things. Chris Chibnall wasn't the first showrunner to run Doctor Who and do unpopular things. There was a time, some people watched Russell T Davies' Doctor Who and really hated the stuff that he did. People really loved all of Moffat's stuff. I loved more of Moffat's stuff than I dislike of Moffat's. I liked Moffat's writing. I didn't like his showrunning, but whatever. I'm actually very 50-50 on Chris Chibnall. I think Chris Chibnall did some really experimental, imaginative things, but then I also think he wrote episodes like whatever that episode was that I've regressed my memory, where they go onto Earth, but it's actually Earth in the future, and I didn't realize it was meant to be some kind of environmental message, but all I can remember is that woman shouting that guy's name and then dying really stupidly. Showrunners, I didn't never put too much weight on them, unless it's John Nathan Taylor, in which case, yeah, let's not talk about him. John Nathan Taylor? John Taylor? Am I J&T? Yes, John Nathan Taylor. John Nathan Turner. I said I wasn't great with names. I was close. I was like all but the last four letters of his name. that was a showrunner of Doctor Who during like the 70s and the 80s, and he was very popular. Um, so the Celestial Toy Maker, Toy Master. I think I said it was Celestial Toy Maker. Yeah. So Celestial Toy Maker was the villain of. So the Toy Maker was a villain of an episode of a serial called The Celestial Toy Maker. It was broadcast. This is when Harris basically reads Wikipedia. It was broadcast in 1966 in April. It was a Will Hartnell episode. It had Steven and it had Dodo in it. And essentially, they get trapped in a they get trapped in a kind of an alternate universe. This Toy Maker is like one of the Toy Maker's been like referenced in New Who. I think Whitaker's first season when they faced like those the celestial beings. It was in that episode where those like aliens took over people's dreams. It was when where Graham was like, my cancer's coming back. Whitaker's doctor calls one of them the Celestials, and I think she references the White and Black Guardian, and she also references the Toy Maker. So the Toy Maker's like the equivalent to like the MCU. No, sorry, I was making a comparison. I don't think that's actually the same. They're basically in Doctor Who is like these really powerful beings, and the Toy Maker is one of them. I've not seen them since that episode, but they basically captured the TARDIS crew and made them play games. It was very famous because William Hartnell took a holiday during like the climax, because that's how TV works back in the 60s. Actors just took holidays and you dealt with it. So what they did was they got William Hartnell to just basically do a voiceover, and they said, "Oh, the Doctor's invisible now," because they made a mistake in one of the games. The fun, imaginative ways of making TV back in the 60s. That's really fun. So yeah, a fairly popular early Doctor Who villain that hasn't really returned. So, and it would be. I mean, heck, the actor who played them was Michael Go. I want to say it's pronounced Go, but maybe it's Goff. Michael Goff, who's a very very famous British actor, very British character actor. Alfred Pennyworth in the Batman in the first set of Batman films. That character's never appeared in Doctor Who again, but they're very popular from the time. So, and Neil Patrick Harris would make a brilliant toy maker. But again, it might be wishful thinking. So yeah, I've got to wait 13 months for that. So, where are we with this reaction video? I've spoken a lot about how much I enjoy this episode. Spoke a bit about my concerns about the future. Although, oh yeah, Valeyard's an interesting theory, because I think we've already so the exact wording Michael Gove, yes. The exact wording of the Valeyard prediction in Trial of a Time Lord is that the Valeyard is a manifestation. I say exact wording and now I'm paraphrasing. The Valeyard is a manifestation of the dark side of the Doctor, who will appear between their 12th and final regeneration. Now, when that line was written, the intention was that this was a being who would appear between Doctor number 12 and Doctor number 13, right? 12th and final regeneration. So, yes, 12, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. That was kind of, it was like the implication was it was going to be like a separate incarnation or something, whatever. Because obviously they were working under the established rules of a Doctor only lived 13 regenerations, and I guess with the 6th Doctor they were fairly confident that wasn't going to happen for a while, so none of them had to deal with that problem narratively. But obviously now we've established both we've established that the Doctor didn't die at incarnation number 13 because they either were given more regenerations during time of the Doctor, or they always had more regenerations, depending on how you would interpret the Timeless Child reveal. So that puts a lot of questions about the Valeyard prediction, but actually you can reinterpret the Valeyard prophecy, so to speak, as being from this point on, from 12th incarnation onwards, all the way to basically the end of Doctor Who, because final incarnation, well, we're never going to reach final incarnation now because we've already broke those rules, right? So yeah, this way we can have kind of at any point. I guess it's possible that the Doctor is playing the Valiant, but also then that doesn't make much sense either because the Valiant, we already know what the Valiant looks like, and the Valiant didn't look like David Tennant. So does the Valiant have like multiple appearances? I've interpreted the Valiant to basically just be like a manifestation, like with Dream Lord. They're not an actual incarnation of the Doctor. They're a manifestation that exists between incarnations, like which or can already happen. The Watcher, who appeared in what was Tom Baker's final episode? Keep of Track? No, not Keep of Traken. Someone's gonna say in the comments before I have time to type it out. Logopolis. That course it is Logopolis. What am I saying? In Logopolis, there was a thing called a Watcher, who was basically like a manifestation of the Doctor's future generation, and they were able to like be their own independent being. So we already know that Time Lords for some reason can like spawn manifestations of themselves that do things. It's a weird thing that they sometimes they do when the plot wants to do weird things. Because that's the way Doctor Who works, I guess. So I always interpreted Valiant as being that. So I don't want David Tennant to be the Valiant. I know some people have said that. Some people have also said that Neil Patrick Harris is going to be the Valiant. Give it 13 more months. I think we'll have exhausted every single part of the 57 or whatever years of Doctor Who we've had. Find every obscure, superpowered, manifestation-esque creation. And manifestation of Doctor Who lore, and people are gonna ask who's who, but it's I have my end note on this is so I will send my end note on the future of Doctor Who, in a second. I'm going to answer Sai Wong's question. Actually, do you believe Capaldi was the first Doctor in New Generation sequence of a second Doctor? Massive the first Doctor in the first what? Sai Wong, your question has too many words in it. Sorry. I don't know. Well, if we assume Hartnell's Doctor is the first incarnation of a 13 incarnation set of incarnations, I think Capaldi is the first Doctor in a second set of 13 incarnation set. Is the first Doctor in a second. Yeah, I said it right. First Doctor in a second set. I don't think Matt Smith. Okay, okay, fine. Look, here's the thing. People always get what an incarnation is wrong. I really hate the idea that David Tennant played two incarnations of Doctor. People seem to think that David Tennant played an incarnation of a Doctor from Christmas Invasion, well, technically Parting of Ways, all the way to Journey's End, and then when the Doctor had his regeneration in Journey's End, that was like a second Doctor from Journey's End to End of Time. No, because an incarnation is a shorthand way of describing a set of appearances and characteristics of a portion of a Doctor's life. Even if they did regenerate, they're still the same Doctor. They just used up one regeneration cycles, but they didn't become a new Doctor. Their personality was the same. I'm explaining this very quickly because I'm sick of explaining it. I've done it so many times in writing. So I don't think that, because I don't think Matt Smith played two different Doctors. They played the same character. They acted the same way. They looked the same way. I have a feel. So I guess the question now I have to ask myself is if David Tennant is playing a new incarnation of the Doctor, is actually the same incarnation but done twice. I mean, from a production point of view, we're not calling Ncuti Gatwa the 15th Doctor, so I get so far they're acting exactly the same way, like they're doing the same quotes and characteristics, like they're not playing a different kind of personality as Tennant's previous incarnation. It is interesting that their clothes changed, because that's only happened in Doctor Who once. Um, I don't know what you mean, Jim Bob, because the Matt Smith part two that I was assuming that Sai was referring to was literally the Matt Smith that we see in the closing final scene of The Time of the Doctor, and they weren't acting differently there. But maybe I'm misunderstanding someone, or someone's misunderstanding someone else. But we'll move on from that anyway. That's I don't think it's quite relevant. What was I saying? Yeah, so this Tennant's playing an incarnation of a Doctor with a very similar personality. Which, I mean, some people are like, oh, maybe David Tennant's coming back, or he's going to play like a completely different Doctor with different personality traits. But so far, he's very much playing the same Doctor, the same personality traits. So that's, I guess, interesting. Oh no, I was talking about the clothes. So the only time the Doctor's clothes have changed during a regeneration is when Hartnell changed Troughton, and their clothes changed. And that's never happened in Doctor Who since. No, it's never happened in Doctor Who since. Actually, I'm trying to remember. Did Troughton's clothes change when he turned into Pertwee? I mean, even if Troughton's clothes did change when he, even if Troughton's clothes did change when he changed into Pertwee, season 6B theory explains that anyway. My point being, it's interesting, but it does change. I don't know if they're going to address that. Like, that's part of a plot twist that we're going to get in 13 months' time. Or if it's just an oddity that's like a reference. They made a lot of references to Troughton's Doctor in this episode. Part of me was really hopeful we'd see more Doctors, by the way. But I guess they didn't want to recast anyone. They didn't want to do any CGI, so I guess they were limited to David Bradley and then the 4 remaining Classic Who Doctors who aren't Tom Baker. Tom Baker, please come back. Just do more Doctor Who stuff. Why not? Okay. I think I've talked extensively now about my opinions of Doctor Who going forward. I'm interested. I just don't like what this means from a production point of view. I just don't like how this validates fan backlash, if that makes sense. I think it's a dangerous precedent to make fans feel like they've forced creators into doing something. I'm not saying that's all fans are like that, because I'm a fan and I'm not like that. I'm not saying every fan who doesn't like certain current parts of Doctor Who are like that. I just know they are people who are passionate about Doctor Who do feel that sense of entitlement, and I don't think that entitlement should be fostered. Again, that's not everyone who is passionate about Doctor Who. That's not everyone who has wish fulfillments. But there are, infinite monkeys, infinite typewriters, infinite monkeys, infinite forms. Okay, so the Whitaker era is over. The Chibnall era is over. What did I think? It's hard for me to say. This is Doctor Who has been a very major part of me growing up. That's why I think I teared up when Ace said to the Doctor, Professor, I'm who I am now because of you. When I was, when Doctor Who first came back, and I was 10, and then I was in secondary school, and I had like a lot of things going on in my life. I think one of the few consistents in my life was Doctor Who, and I think one of my few consistents, I struggled as a person. I struggled with people. But, a lot. Doctor Who was still like, vaguely popular. People were still following it and making comments and talking about things, and there was always that thing that even if I struggled to bond with people over anything else, I could still talk to some people about Doctor Who, kind of thing. So it was a big part of my life then. But also, I had very little else. I was a sociologue. How do I explain this briefly without giving you too much therapy offload in one go? Basically, I didn't have much else. I didn't have much of a life outside of what I did in my own house or when I was at school. So there wasn't much going on. And then, 2003, 15, I moved to Newcastle. I live independently. I went to university. My life became so much more busier. So my dynamics to Doctor Who changed a lot. My dynamics to TV changed a lot. Um, and it very much coincided because when I moved to Newcastle, it was Capaldi's second and third series, and Doctor Who was kind of I hadn't I'm what am I saying here? I think what I'm trying to say. Sorry, give me a second to get my head together here. Because it's hard to compare. A lot of what I feel about Doctor Who is emotional. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. A lot of what I feel about Doctor Who is emotional, but my emotions aren't isolated. My emotions to Doctor Who aren't an isolated fact from how I emotionally exist to the world in general. So as I've become more busy in my life, as I've become more conflicted about things, as my kind of time has been pulled out and as loads of other things are happening, Doctor Who becomes less important because life moves on. I mean, that's very much what Dan was talking about in the beginning of this episode. So I guess what I'm saying is I felt less emotionally invested in Doctor Who, but that's not because of the show. But then that's because of life. But then if I'm less emotionally invested, how can I compare it to the time when I was more emotionally invested? This isn't the thing I was meant to be talking about. I'm just getting very sidetracked here. This is the kind of content I do. I kind of already give my opinion on Chibnall. I think because the thing is, okay, let's be more objective about it. Chibnall changed a lot about Doctor Who that was very different to the last 14 years of Doctor Who, give or take. They first female actress to play the Doctor, to change the aspect ratio. Doctor Who was no longer 16:9; it was 2:1. SquishiVision. Um, they changed the person doing the music from Murray Gold to who's the current composer of Doctor Who, Segun Akinola. They changed a lot about Doctor Who, and it was pretty obvious that it was meant to be like a kind of soft reboot, not a reboot narratively, but a reboot in tone, a reboot in production. I think they got rid of Millennium. They got rid. Sorry, my brain moves faster than my words sometimes. They got rid of the mill, which was the VFX studio. At least I read some of they got rid of the mill, but then I also read some of them didn't get rid of the mill. So maybe I'm wrong about but whatever. Basically, they changed a lot about Doctor Who. In 2018. And it was obvious that Chibnall was basically, people in Capaldi's era were like drifting away, and so it was the whole point of Chibnall being brought in was basically re invent Doctor Who like tonally and presentational way and try and get like more fans back into the show again. But then that kind of didn't really succeed in a way I think those people were hoping it would. And obviously there was a lot of that kind of, I mean, the whole thing about the first female Doctor was a massive kind of change in the history of Doctor Who, that it was designed to pull people in. And I think a lot of people feel in retrospect that Chibnall failed on that front because it didn't work, and so Chibnall did service to Whitaker's Doctor. I think I will say one thing I'm very certain of is I didn't like the companion dynamic during Whitaker's era. Like throughout Whitaker's era, they had basically two eras of companions. They had the Ryan, Graham, Yaz trio, and then they had the Dan, Yaz duality. Duality means something else. But primarily it was those three. And I think Graham, someone's already edited Doctor Who's Doctor Who's page to be like David Tennant's now the Doctor, um, which I think is a bit preemptive, but whatever. Bradley Walsh, I think, is a pretty decent actor. I mean, obviously, he's out of all of them, he's the most experienced actor, and I think he worked. I don't know what else Tosin Cole has been in, but Tosin Cole's Ryan, I just didn't. Bradley Walsh had a decent chemistry to him. Tosin Cole. Okay, no, let me backtrack. Oh, rather, let me simplify this. Now, I've said this in my previous videos. Individually, Ryan worked. Whenever Ryan was alone with the Doctor, they worked. Or whenever Graham was alone with the Doctor, they worked. Or whenever Yaz was alone with the Doctor, they worked. Or whenever Dan was alone with the Doctor, they worked. When they were all together, oh, is that what it didn't work? Oh, there's just, I don't know. It just, there wasn't that glue, and none of them really seemed to bounce. None of them bounced off each other enough. They bounced, they individually they worked, but when they were all together as a group, and often what happened is the three of them would be doing one thing and the Doctor would be off on their own. It was like, or they were split up into like pairing, or split up into like groups and things, but it never kind of worked. So I think Whitaker was actually let down a lot by like companions who just didn't have that chemistry to them, and it barely worked a lot of the time. I think that was really the biggest issue for me here. Whitaker was great on her own. The episodes were... I don't think the episodes were... Let's bring up the... Yeah, I think you're right, mine. Where's the bloody list of episodes? Series 11. So, Series 11 was a weird series because it was a bunch of standalone episodes which didn't always quite... It was, yeah. There was... And how much of that did Chibnall actually write? A few good ones, actually. Then you got some really weird ones. Like... Okay, so it wasn't series 1, series 12 was the weird episode, was a weird series. I'm sorry, this is, as you can tell, I've vastly lost my steam in the last few seconds. Series 11, I think, was not a strong start to Whitaker's era. I think it was very mixed. I'm trying to remember episodes that were broadcast 4 years ago. We're living post-COVID. Things that happened in 2018 were like a different life. I can't remember who I was pre-COVID. I don't know. I was always turned off a lot by how the companions were. I think I was also getting used to kind of a new way Doctor Who worked. But like some of it was decent. I think Resolution was a good 1st of January special. Series 12. So Series 12 actually was relatively... So, okay, Series 12 I remember better, and I have strong opinions. Oh, that was a weird thing about Chibnall's era. So we completely skipped Doctor Who 2019. We got the New Year's Day special in 2019, and then we didn't have any Doctor Who for another 12 months. So I think actually that's the other problem with Chibnall's Doctor Who. I've forgotten that happened. It was a complete drop of momentum in a way that Doctor Who had never kind of... it was a fizzling off of momentum that had been consistent since 2005. Like, we've had gaps. we had Doctor Who consistently from 2005 until 2009, and then we had a year which was just specials. But even then, it felt like the momentum was still there. They were like miniature movies. It was still during David Tennant's popularity, and then we had Doctor Who consistently from 2011 until 2000 and from 2010 until 2013. Oh no, 2011, 2013, we consistently had Doctor Who because Matt Smith had a series every single year. Although actually there was that weird final series that was split into two halves, one beginning of the year and one the end of the year. And then yeah, we had Capaldi's era, which I think also had like a gap in it, and then we had like a gap here, and I think that kind of that's not helped the momentum of Doctor Who a lot. But series 12 actually was pretty decent. I think Spyfall was a really good two-parter, for the most part anyway. If you ignore basically the Yaz Grim and Ryan bits and you just focus on the Doctor bit. Orphan 55. Okay, Orphan 55 is the episode I think we all want to forget happened. Orphan 55 is just the whole bizarre thing. But to be fair, Orphan 55 isn't even a Chibnall episode. It was written by Ed Heim, and directed by Lee Heaven Jones. Chris Chibnall's influence on Orphan 55 was purely from a showrunner point of view. Nicola Telsa's Night of Terror was pretty alright. I think I was just basically being a massive nerd about Nicola Telsa. Future of a Jadoon was a fantastic episode that kind of paid off in a way. Jadoon was interesting because of the concepts, not because of the show, but not because of the narrative, but like the whole concept of Ruth was interesting, and then obviously Jack Harkness reappeared in an episode. Praxius. I vaguely remember Praxius. Can you? Okay, so yeah, after Future of Jadoon, we had Praxius and Can You Hear Me, which are two really weird episodes. Actually, now I think about it, that was one with the immortal frog, wasn't it? Haunting of Villa Diodati was a really good Sandman episode. I think we should probably talk about Ashad, right? Ashad reappeared, and that was interesting. So I really liked Ashad when he appeared in Haunting of Villa Diodati because I felt that was something really new about the Sandman we've never seen before. I mean, it wasn't a completely like left wing in terms of, is that the right baseball analogy? Am I making that up? Wide ball. Ashad wasn't like a completely like really bold concept. A Cyberman who was a bit more human. Doctor Who's done that before, Daleks who are a bit too much human, Cybermen who aren't full Cybermen, whatever. It's nothing new, but I think at least the actor who played Ashad, who is Patrick O'Kane, did a fantastic job with how he executed Ashad as a character, made him a very compelling villain. And so I was very disappointed Ashad basically then got killed off in The Timeless Children with very little ceremony or fanfare. But then Ashad comes back in this episode, but also then does actually very little. In fact, actually, well, it was fun to see Ashad. I did like seeing that emotional Cyberman again. I think that was good. I enjoyed watching it, but I think I would have missed anything if Ashad wasn't in it. If instead of Ashad, it was just that Cybermaster leader dude person in charge, it would have been the same kind of threat level, just a little bit less creepy. So yeah, I maintain that Ashad should not have been killed off either then on. But I think Ashad's also died in this episode again. Left field, it was the phrase I was looking for, not left wing. That means something completely different. Doctor Who has always been left wing. Yeah, left field concept. But yeah, Ashad. I was happy when they brought Ashad back, even if they kind of retconned or made up a reason to bring him back. But then they immediately killed him off, and I'm like, well, great, you went into my good books and then back into my bad books straight away. Don't do that. How have I been talking for an hour and a half? This is I've been talking. Okay, Generally, I don't think it's a good idea to do a reaction video to an episode and make that reaction video to an episode longer than the episode itself. So I'm gonna guillotine my reaction at 90 minutes. Thank you to everyone who's tuned into this video, to this reaction video. I think that's probably why I've talked for so long, because there's been so many people giving me engagement. So if you got something else you want my opinion on, now's the time to put it in the comments, and I'll let you know very quickly before I guillotine this video in about 5 minutes time. Equally, if you want to listen to more of my rambles, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to my gaming channel, which is linked into my channel's suggested channel list, because I'm probably going to do some gameplay at some point. I might do some gameplay tonight, actually, because I have no work tomorrow. I think I have my last week of a few days off before I go back to full-time work again. I think so. Or mostly full-time work. So yeah, if you want to see me play some video games, then look at my other channel. Yeah, that's me doing a plug, but you know, even if you don't watch my videos ever again, just give me a like and subscribe. Like, you don't have to then commit to anything. That's your own life. But I mean, hey, thanks for watching. I'm a much better speaker when I'm engaging with people than when I'm just talking. So, because if you leave me to my own devices for long enough, I will either do one of two things. I will talk very coherently and very well in a very short burst of time, and then immediately frizzle out and just be awkward, or I'll do what I'm doing now and forget what I was talking about and go on a tangent that isn't to do with why you're coming watching me. So, you know, engage with what I'm talking about. Sorry, that sounded like I was blaming you for the quality of my videos. I suppose I am blaming you for quality of videos. This is your fault. Like, you, no one else, just you, singular watcher that I'm pointing at now. You know who you are. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, series 12 of Doctor Who. And then yeah, so we had Essential of a Cyberman, which wasn't the best. It was a weird. Essential Cyberman was a weird episode, which was trying to be a sequel to The Haunting of Villa Diodati, but a prequel to The Timeless Children, and kind of failing to be both. And then The Timeless Children came out. And The Timeless Children was a very controversial episode, which I think actually executed a very bold concept and a very bold plot twist in Doctor Who history that I actually very liked and a lot of people hated, and I don't understand why. Because but here's another thing about looking forward. And Russell T Davies' Doctor Who episode. Loads of people are hopeful that Russell T Davies will undo the Timeless Children reveal. No, I don't want him to undo the Timeless Children reveal. I really hope he doesn't as well. Like, don't backstab your previous showrunner. Like, have more class than that, please. Then again, is bringing back David Tennant kind of backstabbing? I don't know. Maybe not. Well, yeah. So Timeless Children came out. Then we had Revolution of the Daleks, which I actually kind of liked. I was surprised by how kind of okay that was. I liked that the Prime Minister of the UK got exterminated in front of 10 Downing Street. That was a nice visual. I think if David Tennant plays an incarnation of the Doctor completely, like, without any twist or special kind of like a twist or a novel plot or like an interesting concept being executed in a unique way, which could only have ever been done by David Tennant playing the role again. If it's just simply David Tennant gets brought back for a short stint as the Doctor and plays the Doctor and nothing of any special note happens, you know, other than it's David Tennant's back, yay, absolutely a waste and an insult to the thesis of Doctor Who being about moving forward and being progressive. And yeah, I will be disappointed. I'm living in a slight hope there's going to be like a twist here, because enough things are a bit odd, enough things are a bit off. You know, the fact that the clothes changed, which isn't unheard of, but it's very unusual, and the only time it happened was more production than narrative. This was a deliberate narrative CGI thing. They changed the clothes. The fact that Ncuti Gatwa is in the next episode, and not. I mean, we know he's going to be in the next episode. Well, we know he's going to be in it at some point, obviously, but the trailer revealed him, which implies something else is off. But if none of that's true, if it's just a plain simple David Tennant's back, yes, I will be. No, I won't. I don't think it'd be purely wasteful. I think it would be disrespectful. And I've ranted about this earlier in the video about my apprehensions. Where were we at? And then series 13, which was the Flux. The Flux was interesting. I actually wrote a very long review for my student newspaper called The Courier, and I also did a long thing. I won't talk too much about the Flux because I did the whole video about the Flux when I live reacted to the Vanquishers. I think the Flux was messy. It had some really good episodes. The Village of the Angels was a fantastic Weeping Angel episode. Once Upon a Time had some interesting concepts, but it was weird. And then we have Eva, the Daleks, and Legends of the Sea Devils. Those Sea Devils is actually alright. I think reflecting on the last. Actually, Eva the Daleks was a hilarious Doctor Who episode. I don't know why people didn't like Eva the Daleks. Eva the Daleks was like comedy. I found it very amusing. I felt that they took the groundhog. I was trying to remember what the animal was called, and also the concept, the film. They took the groundhog concept and did something very interesting with it. Oh gosh, I've hit my 90-minute mark. Well, I think I'm running out of things to say. I thought I had more to say on the reflection of Chibnall's era, but I was fine with it. I think people were too overly critical of things. I think there were some things which were not that great. There were some episodes which were actually very good and people didn't give enough credit. And they were the middle-list episodes, but people expect excellence and then misinterpret okay with mediocre. Okay is okay. Like, Doctor Who is 50 years old. It's had some fantastic pieces of art made. You can't be consistently fantastic. You can't be consistently excellent. If you're always excellent, that's not you being excellent. That's you being average. But the thing is, people confuse the capability of being excellent with the fact that if you're anything short of excellent, you are therefore substandard. I think people put themselves in that mindset before Chris Chibnall came into the role. I mean, look, Chris Chibnall was never my favorite Doctor Who writer. I was never thrilled with Chris Chibnall's appointment. I think there were better people who could have taken the role. Just based purely on like what I thought of his episodes. I mean, I enjoyed 42. 42 was one of those episodes which took a concept in that it was Doctor Who in real time. And just interesting with it. And Chris Chibnall, but then also like there was, what was it? The Cube, Power Free. But then actually, was Power Free Chris Chibnall's fault, or was Power Free the fault of Steve, whatever his name was, that actor who basically just went completely crazy? I think Chris Chibnall's been in a difficult place where he's tried to do something interesting and new, try and get views in. But some people don't want new. Other people want new, but only their particular brand of new. And then Chris Chibnall's in the position where, okay, well, do I course correct to what these people want, or do I stick to my convictions? And obviously, he's all the pressure of everyone else on the BBC. Also, people have to remember, Chris Chibnall isn't the only stakeholder of Doctor Who. In fact, he's far by it. There are so many stakeholders in Doctor Who. Doctor Who is BBC's flagship show. There are going to be so many people in the Doctor Who, kind of in the BBC leadership rather, who have input in what Doctor Who has to do, and those are Chris Chibnall's bosses. Chris Chibnall is also not the only executive producer of Doctor Who, but other producers of Doctor Who who have a lot of say as well. He's just the figurehead. I guess my point here is also Even if you really hated Chris Chibnall, be kind. I've people. There are people on the internet who could be really cruel against creators. Like, Christ, I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, and even I'm happy to be like, this is just a show. We don't need to crucify a man for like not doing the best with a show that he could have done in your eyes. You know what I mean? People shouldn't crucify creators, because then no one's ever gonna have the gall to do anything new or creative again. Because you keep crucifying people for like trying to do new things. Stop being mean. I literally saw a tweet yesterday of someone who was like, I hope Chris Chibnall goes to hell. I'm like, what? Come on. Like, it's don't, please stop bullying people who work in TV unless they're generally like bad people, in which case, yeah, fine, bully them, whatever. But just because they didn't do the show what you wanted them to do, don't bully them. I don't know how I feel about Russell T Davies coming back. I liked Russell T Davies, but I think he had his time. And I was gonna say it wasn't Russell T Davies who wrote School Reunion. It was who wrote School Reunion. Toby Whithouse, brilliant writer. It was Toby Whithouse who wrote in School Reunion, the 2006 Doctor Who episode, that everything dies and everything has its time. And that's kind of why, yeah, I don't know. I'm repeating myself now. This is how it happens. Yeah. So, to summarize, really like this episode. I'm feeling other people might not have liked it, but I generally did like it. I'm a bit apprehensive about the future, but I guess we just have to wait and see. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, I guess we end on Lily. Yeah, go on. So I will end with me saying bye and whoops, Lily saying bye. Lily grabbed my microphone. So that's what I thought of Power of the Doctor. Thanks everyone for watching and engaging. I appreciate the new people speaking to me. I'm gonna go do some stuff, catch up with my Duolingo. I might play some video games depending on how tired I am. So if you possibly want to engage with me broadcasting some gameplay, subscribe to my gaming channel so you get notification. I don't know. I'm gonna see what happens. I might play some Flight Simulator. And yeah, I'll see you in 13 months for the next Doctor Who thing. Alright, bye bye. Say bye, Lily. Lily, say bye. That's good enough.